Oroco Resources is by far my biggest position at this point, and it's been my biggest position since I believe August of 2017. However, my discovery of Oroco Resources dates way back all the way to November 2014. What you have in front of you is a newsletter that I used to write called Ultimate Value Finder. I don't write it anymore. But during that particular issue, Oroco was featured as one of the three companies. The other two, Sea Change International, didn't turn out so well. Symmetry Medical, I think it ended up being bought out, so this one did okay. But Oroco obviously worked out the best. During that issue, I said that I have never written about a company with a market cap as small as Oroco, but how can I resist? Where else can you find an investment opportunity where a double or triple is almost a certainty, while a 100-bagger is a possibility? So as you can see, I thought that Oroco was a 100-bagger even back then, but I thought it for the wrong reasons. So I shouldn't give myself too much credit for this particular issue, because at that time when I wrote about it, Oroco was involved in, it owned a completely different asset than Santo Tomas Copper that I talk about now. But at that point I thought that there was a possibility that the gold property that Oroco owned had a lot of potential. But I personally didn't invest any money in it because, as I said sometimes before, I don't invest in exploration companies. There is too much risk for me, and there's not enough value for me to determine anything. So the reason why I wrote about Oroco is because at that time Oroco owned two projects, Cerro Prieto and Xochipala property. Cerro Prieto was being sold by Oroco to Gold Group Mining, and Gold Group Mining was another company that I was following at that time, so that's what caught my attention. Now, Oroco had a market cap of only $2 million and it had no debt. And because of this transaction, in other words, selling Cerro Prieto, Oroco was receiving $2.5 million of cash. It was receiving 5.5 million shares of Gold Group, and it was also receiving a promissory note in the amount of $4.1 million. So, in other words, $2 million versus all of this seemed like a undervalued proposition. So that's why I wrote about it. But again, I didn't really buy any shares myself. But here's what happened. As you can see here, Oroco, what I circled here is Oroco's address and Gold Group's address. Notice that these addresses are identical. And this is because these two companies shared the same office. So because I was interested in Gold Group at that time, every 4 or 5 weeks I would call Oroco, and because Oroco was also a shareholder of Gold Group because it received 5.5 million shares, I would occasionally call Oroco to do some scuttlebutt on Gold Group and find out what was going on with Gold Group. And that's how I learned the company more, and that's how I developed a relationship with some of the people inside Oroco. About 3 years later, I noticed something. Around August 2017, there was an increase in volume, and I checked the insider transactions and I noticed that the CEO of Oroco was buying shares. I automatically assumed that this was because there must have been some kind of drilling success at Xochipala Gold property, which I referenced before. And I started searching the internet for the word Xochipala. I mean, I was using all kinds of combinations. Xochipala, Oroco, whatever. Xochipala project. And this is what I got. Somehow, I got on the page of santotomascopper.com. Right now, it says that the website is being updated. But just to show you what this website looked like back then, I am using what's called Internet Archive Wayback Machine, and on September 17, 2017, this is what this website looked like. It was some kind of notice of legal action with regard to the rightful ownership of Santo Tomas Copper project. And when I searched for the word Xochipala, I got it several times throughout the page. And when I searched for the word Oroco, there was nothing. Now, Xochipala was the word that I only associated with Oroco. And why wasn't there the name Oroco? I had no idea. But it said that on June 30th, 2016, Compañía Minero Ruelo, represented by Rodriguez following the Bahamas court decision without knowledge of the Mexican judgment, sold the Santo Tomas property to Xochipala Gold. This agreement has been filled with Mexican Public Registry of Mining for registration. After I read this, I realized something very important, because I remember when I was talking with Oroco over the years, I remember some kind of talk one time that Oroco was involved in some kind of legal dispute over some valuable property. But I didn't know the name of the property, I didn't know the size of the property. It was just mentioned to me while we were talking about a gold group. So I started searching more and more and more, and I read all of these legal documents that were on this website. And I realized that Santo Tomas property was a huge copper porphyry deposit that was probably going to be worth anywhere between 300 million to maybe, at that time I didn't realize it might have been worth $1 billion. At that time I thought that maybe it was going to be worth 300 million maybe. And I looked at Oroco's stock price and it was about $3 million. So it started to make sense to me why the CEO was buying shares. So sometime late August, I started buying shares myself for 4.5, and I accumulated quite a number of shares. But there was still no word from the company as to anything relating to Santo Tomas. And it wasn't until February 23rd that Oroco acquired interest in Santo Tomas properties. By that time, Oroco's stock price went from 3.5 cents or 3 cents all the way to 11, almost 4 times, just on the announcement. Obviously, during the time, from the time that the CEO started buying to the time that it was announced, the insiders or people who knew about the legal situation must have been buying shares and causing the stock price to increase. But this is just an example of what can happen with some of these small companies when you are willing to do some work, some digging, some scuttlebutt before everyone else finds out what is going on. So this is just a short introduction of how I became involved with Oroco. First, I wrote about it in the newsletter. Then I was on the phone with them doing scuttlebutt about Gold Group. And then I noticed the company's CEO buying shares. did some little research, found out about Santo Tomas Copper project, acquired shares, and the next video will be how I got to learn about the legals, how I became comfortable that the legals were going to be solved. But in terms of the introduction of how I got it, that's it for that video.